Now, it is episode 12 of the Monaghan Way in association with Northern Sound, and myself here, Sean McCaffrey. And again, my thanks to you for catching up on all our previous episodes. You, of course, can go back and check them. They're listed there on the YouTube streaming platform, and of course also on the Android platforms and the Apple platform, Spotify, or wherever you pick up on your podcasts. Now we're turning our attention to the club scene here in Monaghan and the opening round of fixtures in the club championship that is coming our way. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by a regular Monaghan GA commentator, Fergal Monaghan, just to look forward to these. And Fergal, I was up at a launch in the Cloughan Centre of Excellence back 2 weeks ago now, just as a sort of a precursor to the championship. The league semi-finals were still on the horizon. They have been completed, so we sort of know the makeup of how the leagues have worked out in the different grades. But the one thing I got from that night was just the anticipation, the buzz, the element of excitement when it comes round to the club championship, because it's back down, it's the grassroots, and as much as the inter-county kicks up the first half of the year, it's all club now in the second half.
Absolutely, and football is relentless. There's always another match, and you know that inter-county thing captured the imagination for its time, but now we're going back in, and everyone wants to get up and running. And the club, it's kind of unique about Gaelic football, isn't it? Like, you got your county and everyone comes together, but like then you're back in, that's parked, and now it's the sole focus on the championship. And you're right about those league semi-finals. I was at the Latin Maracloon game at the weekend, and brilliant game, hard, fair, strong game of football. Really looking forward to this championship, and it's just a tonic to get away from the county scene and to get back into our county and get back in and see what's going on around the clubs, because good club scene and people and teams playing well, and more teams being competitive. Well, then it's the circle. It comes back into the county then when we come back next year to start that campaign all over again. So it's a win-win. If you're good championships, you generally help your county team out as well.
Absolutely. And it's always this age-old debate that is maybe thrown out of it now, moving All Ireland's further into August, maybe get them back to September and split seasons, one thing and another. You're out and about, you'll be talking to a lot of players, a lot of managers, similar myself. I've yet to speak anybody on that end of it that doesn't agree, or go with the split season, because it is specifically that. It's split. Inter-county's done and dusted now. The county players can fully focus on the championship. I know they would argue maybe the leagues have taken a slight hit because you're playing the games without your inter-county players, but at the same time, the focus is always on championship.
I mean, the people who possibly complain about split seasons are spectators, and players are the ones who are putting the effort in, training for 4 or 5 days a week. We then go to a match at the weekend and are experts on it and what should and shouldn't happen. But the players are the ones putting in all that effort, all that work behind the scenes. And really, for me, they're the people you ask. Ask them how are they getting on. And if they're happy with the split season and if it's working for them, and that's who should be informing the calendar, in my book. Look, you can debate the All Ireland is this or it's that, but unfortunately, it only affects a couple of teams every year, and I'd love if it was us, but maybe in the future. But for me, the split season makes sense. Then you can go into a further argument, Sean, about the format of the championship and waiting around and different things. That has come up, as we alluded in the last time I was on with you. But that's a story for another day. For the split season, it's brilliant. And look, you can say the league has jeopardy now because you're pulled into that relegation battle, as we see last week with True and Cromartin. Or Ballabay and Cromartin, I beg your pardon. And, it has repercussions not having your best players. But having said that, it also gets other players playing at senior level. And I know that might suit some clubs who have loads of players, and, it won't suit other clubs who maybe have a tight panel. I was talking to Cromartin people, and, they had a few bad days against True and Maracloon because their panel, they didn't have many on the bench. It was tight on the given day, but then they rose to the occasion against Ballabay last week. So, look, nothing's perfect, but the more guys we have playing senior football in general, the better, and the better for our games, and the better as for clubs as well, because you want everybody involved.
Absolutely. Listen, it's as good a place as any to start. You mentioned there about league semi-finals and those relegation playoffs. It was, as you said, Latin Maracloon one side of the draw, Maracloon coming out on top, Scottstown and Carduff on the other side of the draw. I happened to be at that game, a 1-point win for Scottstown, and Ballybay Cromartin, good local derby in that relegation playoff. Cromartin coming out by 2 points. That tells me enough now going into Championship. This is going to be a tight one. 1 point wins in league semi-finals and a 2 point win in a relegation playoff.
Absolutely. Scottstown, found themselves down at one point in that game. Carduff hit the ground running, as you were there, Sean, and the word minus a few regulars on the night, but they found a way. And I suppose their Scottstown's midfield really, Micheál McCarville and Gavin McPhillips really earned their corn that night. They got a good foundation and it kind of kept them in it. Carduff very lively with Keith McEnany in full forward, Gavin at centre forward, and D. Marn popping in with a few points. But this guy, Jason McGee, he'll shore up that midfield, and that could be the remedy to that problem. So, he'll have to lick his wounds. He's disappointed now, but, he is the next route, port of call is that South Monaghan club in Carduff is where he's going to find his home now. And it'll be really interesting to see how he fits into that and how he will improve that Carduff team. So the next time those two teams meet, it could be a completely different scenario with different clientele involved. The Cromartin Ballybay game, a local derby, you got to hand it to Cromartin. They really can, and it's no surprise. I mean, the two sides played out a draw last year's championship in the group stages. So, Cromartin are there in merit. They've Stephen Mooney back, Jamie Mooney playing well. David Hanley, good player as well. So, Cromartin are a tricky outfit, and Ballybay will be disappointed. But I know Ballybay are struggling with injuries as well. So, they have their own problems, like all teams. Injuries can be a big problem, especially to the players that are injured on the Ballybay side of things. And I was at the Maracloon-Latin game. Latin started out brilliantly. I think they went 1-7 to a point up, but Maracloon got their running game going. And I talked about that ability to play different players. Maracloon and Damien Feeney's the manager, and Eamon Hughes is the coach, the trainer, and they've used their junior team and their senior team have the same management. And it's working a treat. It used to happen all the time years ago, but it's no coincidence that the junior team are in the championship final and the senior team are in the league final now, because they're interchangeable. Players feel valued. They're getting playing different. Everyone, have a load of players. I'd say there's about 30 players being used throughout. So that gives lads a real incentive as well. And it's a credit, I suppose, to the club that they have so many people involved and players involved. The juveniles going well as well. So, but Latin go very, very strong, and it was a nip and tuck game. And Maracloon with a Ryan Farley 45 just got them over the line. But it was a brilliant match. Two honest country teams who can play a bit of football. And Maracloon come out on the right side. But very evenly matched, I have to say.
Yeah, of course, they're going to be meeting. They're in the same group, and we should go through the format, I suppose, of how the club championship, those who might be familiar with it, in Monaghan. There's 2 groups of 5, so you have 4 games. You're going to have a bye. You have 2 at home, and you have 2 away, wherever they may be, and those draws have been made, in fairness, in that regard. And I will just go back Group 1, maybe. Scottstown, the defending champions in there. True, Cromartin, Clontibrick, Carduff. Ballybay were the senior league champions from last year, so that's why there was a seeding and they were split. They went into Group 2 alongside Inniskeen, Maracloon, Latin and Amullen. So that first group, Scottstown, True, Cromartin, Clontibrick, Carduff. Top team semi-final, 2 teams quarter-finals, bottom 2 into a relegation grouping. So there's a lot to play for.
Oh, loads to play for. And I mean, it's ironic, Ballybay, the league champions, now find themselves in that relegation final now, and depending on how the championship pans out, who they're going to play there. So anything can happen. A lot can happen in a year, and the jeopardy is there. The league now is parked until the end of the year. We know the league final pairings. We know who's in the relegation and that from that league. And now the championship will take on its own story. But it's never as straightforward as you think. There's always a team, or there's always a team who underperforms. There's always a team who maybe overperforms and will put something in. And of course, it's been well documented. If you read the paper, the Northern Standard, and the lads who do a great job there, Colin Shelby and them, Scottstown will be the team to beat. But it's never that straightforward. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what teams are going to do now when they have the full complement back. You'd mentioned there, Sean, that they didn't have county players throughout the league. Well, most players will be back, and players will be missing for either injury, or I know there's a couple of players like Dylan Burns in America, Gary Mowens in America, and they mightn't be seen again now until round 3 of the championship because of, restrictions and depending on how their team in America goes. So there's lots of little side stories, and a lot will be revealed now when we see this first round of championship fixtures.
It will indeed, and maybe we'll just focus on those first round of fixtures in Group 1. I know Scottstown have a bye, so I think it's Clonturber Carduff is the opening game. And what I'm looking at here is you're expecting Scottstown to be topping the group, the champions, the county champions. No disrespect to Cromartin, you're expecting them to be maybe in the bottom 2, having already in the league been in a relegation. So there you have 2 out of the 4, 3 remaining, 2 to go through, 1 to go down. Through Clonturber Carduff, like, who would you be thinking, or could you envisage would be heading towards maybe a relegation group in that, and who could be heading towards maybe quarterfinals or a semi-final?
You got to say, Carduff have got stronger and stronger. Since I saw them win their intermediate championship a couple of years ago, like, they've grown as a club. You think about how they're seen as by other clubs. They would have been seen maybe in years gone by as a junior team. Now they went into the intermediate, they won the intermediate, and now they're very, they are a senior outfit, and they're a formidable outfit. Nobody relishes playing Carduff because they know that they're on it every day. They're putting in the effort. They're going to be there. But Clonturber are the beaten county finalists from last year. They've been talked about it. They're an aging team. But look, they're going to have men back. I know Darren McDonald, the goalkeeper, is playing outfield at the minute, which is an interesting situation. He's a big man, big unit around the middle. So whether that will continue to be the case in the championship, I'm not sure. Aaron Carey had a great season with the county as well. He's going to be growing in stature from that. Killian Lavelle back from injury, that'll be a big help. I hope Killian regains his fitness and form, because he had a brilliant first half of the year. That shoulder injury against Meath was a real unfortunate from him, from a personal point of view and from the team point of view. But he's back. And look, my man and your friend Desi Moan is still going there, and maybe that's a question with Conor McManus and Desi. They're still there. There's still a lot expected of them, and it's a worry maybe for Clonturber that, they're reliant on these older guys, and how much more can they do, or how much longer can they play? And of course, the main man, in my opinion, for Clonturber is Conor Boyle, in that defence. I think he's a brilliant player. He's been a big loss to our county team, but he's a fantastic player, and he is around that full back, centre half back area. And his ability to get forward. But Clonturber are tough, they're seasoned, they're confident, they back themselves, they can win tight matches, but they're coming up against a hungry team in Carduff, and Carduff and Banty and co will know the value of getting a first round win and getting that momentum and getting that safety as well, where it's almost like a safety net. You've got 2 points on the board. You lose that first game in the championship, Sean, and it's a real difficult uphill battle then. You're on the back foot straight away. And as I said, I alluded to it in the league semi-final with Carduff and Scottstown. Carduff got off to a great start, but Scottstown grinded it out. Neil McCarville and Gavin McPhillips in midfield got dominance there. And that's why I'm interested about this man, Jason McGee, going in there to help out. He will be a big unit in that midfield area that Clonturber will maybe have Darren McDonald to try and to break ball on him as well. So it's an interesting one. As I said, the two McEnaney's, Keith and Gavin, playing very well. Dylan McEnaney would be the man marker. He'll be in there. He could be marking Conor McManus. He had to mark Jack McCarron there at the weekend. It was a tough one. Jack was tricky and elusive. So, but Dylan's the man marker. I mean, Clonturber Carduff, geez, that is so tight, Sean. Clonturber, I think, are at home. Yeah, that could have some value, but geez, you nearly think Carduff may be able to sneak this one, but it'll be very, very tight.
Well, there you are. Well, at least there's no sitting on the fence anyway, Fergal. We're off to a good start here. So,
well, you know what? I get accused of getting splinters so often. I sit on the fence. I'm a real draw merchant just to get myself out of jail. But no, I'm going to go. I think Carduff might. Now, it depends on a fit Conor McManus, and it depends a lot. And as I say, I haven't seen as much of these teams as I'd like. You're shooting in the dark a little bit. But I just think this Carduff team, if they get McGee on, yeah, and I'm sure they will, because that's what he's there. He's there to play. So they could just about, but it'll be a nip and tuck game.
It will indeed, and it's a real mouthwater to get the things underway. The other then is True against Cromartin, and True with home advantage in this one. And again, well, you're looking at the team through coming up from the intermediate last year, through the intermediate league, obviously Mahar catching them in the intermediate championship final. So, and I know they ended up just falling the wrong side of the line in the senior league. They actually were in contention to be heading to the knockout stages of it. They end up in a relegation battle. They comfortably got themselves out of that and up against the Cromartin side then that, as I said, did get over that relegation final against Ballybay, but would be looked on as maybe just, I don't like to use the word favourites, but you'd be looking as one of the sides that possibly could be in the bottom two. This has the makers of a massive game now because, as you've rightly said, a win in the first round is like a safety net under you.
Yeah, I'm a fan of True, and they're an enigma. You know, you can never, you think they're going to do something and they maybe underperform, but look, there's been a bit of transfer news as well. They've got a new man in there, Darren O'Neill, another big midfielder, Sean. Cardoffa, Jason McGee, Darren O'Neill from Clare, played with Air Ogan Ennis, 3 Clare championships under his belt. This man's about 6'6", 6'7". I'm watching Reacher. Do you ever watch Reacher? It's and there was in the third season. There's this guy 7'2". Kind of, I was putting in mind of it. This man's 6'6" or whatever. Like what an absolute find to have a man like that in a county where sometimes we struggle with midfield, and he's going to be a big asset. Now, on the other side, you have Gary Mohan, who's going to be away. He's not going to be around for this game. And as I said, I think it's round 3, depending on things, how before those men who are playing in America are eligible to play again for their club. So that tempers it. A man who's playing very well for True, Ryan Mohan, he actually is kicking a lot of scores. Gary's related Gary, and he's a man marker though as well. When the last time the sides met, Ryan actually did a man marking job on David Hanley from Cromartin. So the physicality of True is what, anytime we ever speak to any teams about playing True, whatever, they're big, they're physical. You know, you have Ronan Boyle and Louis Kelly there as well. You know, Ronan's a brilliant player. You remember him years ago, he's minor team of the year with Monaghan and back in 18 or 19 or whatever it was. And Louis Kelly is finding realising his potential. He was always a brilliant. I remember him starting with True as a young Leaving Cert student in the county final against Scottstown about 3 or 4 years ago. And now he's playing in his county and he's only going to get better. Another big man. So I would say True are the favourites on this one, no doubt. And you said the home venue. But Stephen Mooney will give you a fighting chance. And Cromartin, they've never really played True that often. Now, I know they didn't get on that well in the league. True got them in the league, but they probably would have missed each other. Cromartin were intermediate and vice versa. So they're only kind of meeting each other now. But Stephen Mooney and Jamie Mooney, very good footballers. And Stephen is just an out-and-out.
And sorry, Fergal, we actually just, the link went down split second on us there. You were just referencing Stephen Mooney and what he can bring to this Cromartin team.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, Stephen is a marksman out and out, and he's a great man in a clutch situation to take a difficult free. And look, Cromartin beat Ballybay in a relegation battle. We know a kind of a winner takes all game. You got to think Cromartin have a great temperament for big days. You know, some of the games they lost maybe mightn't have had as much jeopardy. So I think Cromartin have established themselves in the last couple of years. They're operating maybe on a smaller panel than a lot of teams, but I do think, all that aside, you know, Ronan Boyle there, maybe you'll have a good battle with Stephen Mooney. It'll be interesting to see. Jamie Mooney, another good footballer, and I said David Hanley as well. But they'll be full of confidence after that win against Ballybay. But I do think True, with their home advantage, should. But, you know, Marty Woods is doing a good job there. He's one of the joint managers. But, you know, it's about True will have to perform on the day. It's something maybe that is criticism that has been levelled at them, but the potential is undoubtedly there. And I think they're in a good place. So I'm going to tip True with that win with home advantage against Cromartin.
There you go. So going with True on that one, as you said. Group 2 then, Ballybay, Inniskeen, Maracloon, Latin and Mullen, as we noted a little earlier on. And just looking at the fixtures here, Ballybay, Inniskeen, that's quite a tough one to be starting off with, coming out of, as you said, being in a bit of relegation bother. Inniskeen, looking at been trying to get to the knockout stage of the championship once again. They're just coming up short every time within the championship. No Tommy Dornan for them this year, so that'll be a change. We talk about the big midfielders that's coming in. That's one that's gone out.
One that's gone out, and we're talking about all these midfielders: a Loud midfielder, Donegal midfielder, a Clare midfielder. So, we're getting plenty of travel in different United Nations here. But yeah, they're without Tommy Dornan. They're going to have to park that now. He's gone. It's over. Inniskeen will have to adapt. But on the plus side, they have Shane Woods back. Shane was injured last year and he missed it, and he's a really tough competitor. Brother of Andrew, he's back, but he played full forward the last day for Inniskeen. He can play centre back. He played a bit with the county as well. The last year Banty was there. I remember he played against Fermanagh in the now defunct McKenna Cup. He was actually man of the match that day, and he never played again. We didn't see him again, but he'll be he's a combative guy. He's a big asset. Look, you have Andrew Woods, you have Kieran McNulty, you have Sean Jones, and Sean, of course, was with Monaghan. He left the panel, and I think he'll have a bit between his teeth and want to put in a big year. And we know his ability and his undoubted ability on his day. Inniskeen have been the second best team in Monaghan for the last while. It's probably not, they won't enjoy that compliment. It is a compliment, but it's a frustrating one. And they fell short against the mighty Scottstown. On the other hand, Ballabay have won championships. They've crossed that invisible line and they've won the championships, that elusive championship that these current Inniskeen men are trying to get their hands on. But as I said in previously, Sean, Inniskeen or Ballabay will have hit a big morale dent there by losing to Cromartin in that battle in the league. But that's over now as well. And now they've got to move on. But Drew Wiley is out injured. That is such a massive loss. Like, Drew is, he's not playing his county football anymore, but he's a cult hero in Monaghan, not alone Ballabay. And he does things, he puts in a hit or he puts in a block and it just lifts the whole team. And obviously his experience and his know-how, and he raises the standards. I know there's other injuries. I think, I'm not sure if one of the McGuinnesses have a hamstring injury, and, I'm not sure if Desi Ward's fully fit. Like, there is rumours going out around that, but we'll see. All will be revealed at the weekend when they meet in Inniskeen. But both sides, I remember I had only started commentating with Northern Sound, Sean, and we used to split the semi-finals. You'd take one semi, I'd take another. And I remember picking Ballabay in Inniskeen. And what a brilliant one to pick, because it went extra time, or it was just one of the best games of football at that time. I think Ballabay might have went on and won the championship that year. I'm not sure, I can't remember, but it was a brilliant game of football. Ballabay aren't in as good a place as they were those days. Inniskeen will be motivated. I think Inniskeen again at home. Inniskeen will be expecting to win this when Ballabay at in an ideal place. So for me, Inniskeen to answer this Tommy Dornan carry on. I'd say they're fed up of it. They can use it as a positive and as a motivating factor. They've got some serious forwards there. They have Shane Woods back. Ballabay on the other side struggling with a few injuries, but someone will have to step up and take the strain there. But I'm going to go Inniskeen with home advantage again, and to get themselves off to a good start. Of course, this will probably be all wrong, as you know rightly, but that's what I'm going to stick this long neck of mine out and say I think Inniskeen will take this one.
But shit, that's what it's all about, is making these permutations, and everybody does it. You can be rest assured that it's the talk of the bars and the talk of the houses, and the WhatsApp groups are going mad as well of what do you think and what's going on and what's going to happen, and that's what just brings a little bit of magic to it as well. The other one, a good local derby, this one, Latin Armullen, and again, Armullen have been backboned, of course, with the return. I know they've Joel Wilson back, Michal Bannigan coming back in. A big loss for them, obviously, is Bobby McCall, who's out for the year by the looks of it now, with that serious injury that he had picked up, and coming up against a Latin team that, as you said, took it all the way up to Maraclune in that league semi-final, just losing out by a point.
Yeah, Latin and Armullen, very local derby, right beside each other. Brilliant people, honest and tough, and there'll be no holds barred here. This is going to be a right good, this is a manly kind of affair, this one. No Aaron Mulligan for Latin so far. He was injured, and he's a big loss. He's got that X factor, that quality that, teams need. And Owen Duffy's still going well, former county man, and there's another Owen Duffy there playing well as well. But Owen Duffy, the former county man, he played really well against Maracloon, still doing it, still fresh. And Kieran, his brother, are playing at full back, tries to get up as well. There's Brian McCabe as well. He's a great footballer as well from the Latin boys. But you mentioned Bobby McCall there. For me, that was a real loss he's a young fella, like he's only starting. But he's got such a great leap, and Bobby's going to be a big loss for Animal, and he's a loss for Monaghan. There's no doubt about it. All those areas, this midfield we're talking about, where you have lads missing and lads coming in. There's a few unknowns there, but Bobby's one for the future, but he's out, so there's no point talking about Animal and going to have to deal with that. But to have Micheál Bannigan, our Monaghan captain, and Micheál is guaranteed 5-6 points. That's a guarantee, and he's going to work back in defence. He'll get up front. He gives it all for the Animal and cause. Pete Dooney's still working hard in the centre-back area. And Joel Wilson, who stepped away from the county, another county, former county man, and another midfielder. So I'm interested. I want to see these midfield battles, and I want to see how it pans out from a Monaghan point of view, because I'm still getting over, I'm post-traumatic stress here, Sean, just getting over that Donegal game. And I feel that the more options we have in the current new rules game in midfield, the better. So I'll be really interested. I want to see a load of these lads perform really well and play really well, and give us more and more options, and helping the lads who are already there in the county jersey. But from an Animal and Latin point of view, this is the real derby one. This is really and truly, it's so hard to call. Oh, Latin are at home, I think. I'm an Anna it's so hard to call this one. Anna Mullen in the past, Sean, would have lost these tight matches, or maybe drawn them. They wouldn't, and it got them into trouble, got them into relegation battles and whatnot. Oh, I'm struggling on this one, and it's so hard to beat Latin at home. But I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna say maybe Anna Mullen might just shade this one with an inspired Micheál Bannigan performance, but there's no real force behind that prediction. I don't want to say a draw, but that's really what I'm feeling like.
You don't want to get the splinters, I know, by you. I
got trouble getting them out the last time.
Are you looking at a county captain and a former county captain probably coming up against each other? When I say that, marking each other, Kieran Duffy picking up Micheál Bannigan?
Not so sure about that. Maybe he will for a while, but Kieran has been playing in the full back area. So, and the other thing about Kieran, he's such a good option going forward as well. It's hard to know. Will they just put an out and out man marker maybe and sacrifice a ball player just to put on Micheál Bannigan? With zonal defenses and all that. One thing about Latin is they have no problem. They're going to be tough, and they're tough to break down. The running game. Maracloon played a nice running game and got 3 goals off Latin in the league semi-final. So, that's somewhere where Latin or Anna Mullen will want to capitalise, running off the shoulder and getting the pacey players on. But certainly Latin will see Micheál Bannigan no more than, in the All-Ireland final, David Clifford, and then forgot about Paddy Clifford. But Micheál Bannigan, stopping Micheál Bannigan will go a long way to stopping Anna Mullen, as you're kind of cutting the head off the animal. So look, that's one. I'm not sure if it'll be Kieran Duffy. He'll certainly be man marked. You can't let Micheál Bannigan free rein, as we saw in an All-Ireland final. You can't let a man who can run with the ball, score off both feet, do what he wants. So he'll be man marked. Whether it is Kieran Duffy, time will tell. I think it mightn't be, and Kieran will have a chance to do his own job and then roam up and get up and help out round the arc, and maybe get a couple of 2-pointers himself if he can, because he's been known to do that. So this is the hardest one to call from my point of view, Sean. I don't know how you feel. I like to put the questions back on you, maybe ask you a couple of what you would hotspot.
Well, what's funny, considering where Latin were and coming up against Maracloon and being in that league semi-final, I'd be thinking Latin, and I suppose it's the establishment of Latin being there and being a senior team for the past number of years. I know Mullen did come up, and in fairness, and retained and kept their status from last year, so my train of thought would be Latin. But listen, this is the joys of it again. Like, it'd be different if you were going in and saying, oh, there'll be one side of the fair or one team is hot favourites. This is what you want coming out of your championship. And how big a bearing do you think? Listen, Fergal, we've had the league games with the new rules. Now we're heading into the proper hot stuff, the championship, the new rules, the county players coming back that have been maybe tactically made more aware of how to work the rules on one thing and another. That could be a big factor in this championship. That could open it up a lot for different teams.
Absolutely, it will. It will, and you know, it's going to be a big undertaking at the weekend for all the officials and everything to make sure that you're mic'd up or whatever way they're going to work it, to make sure the 4-man up rule is adhered to. And because look, the last thing you want is, you know, someone to get a score and the rule not being applied and debate. So everyone's going to have to be on the money here. Like, and you know, 2-pointers will come into it. There won't be any wind as such. You know, you'd expect the weather to be nicer than it was in the league. And when you talked about 2-pointers and how wind was a big factor, but I think the teams now are well established with it. I think the rules are well established. I did see on a couple of occasions I was at different matches. You know, sometimes that 4-man up rule, 3 defenders and the goalie back or whoever, can sometimes, you know, struggle to get the information over to the referee to let him know, and you can hear the crowd getting involved and stuff like that. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. It'll be easier to do in the championship because obviously it's just that much more official than some of the league games. Not that they're all very well run and very well officiated, but that's just one area. But I think the league, I think it's like everything, Sean. The new rules what were the old rules? We're so now involved in the new rules that we just move on and we just accept that they've always been here. It's like when we were changing currency and the old money to the euro. So it's just part. You just get on it. Suddenly it just comes normal. So I think I'm really looking forward to the championship with the new rules. I think it's going to be a brilliant spectacle. It's going to be a brilliant game. And I think it's going to be very competitive, just like the inter-county championship was as well. I think the gap will be narrowed. And if some team can get their hang of those 2-pointers, well, then you can see what it means to a team. It's just, you're never out of it.
Absolutely. Very briefly, and I'll be just taking the one answer off you on these. I'm going to drop into the other groups or gradings. We have our intermediate, and just to give you a rundown, the groupings, and then it's Dunamine, Drumhowen, De Hamlet, Tome, and Carrickmacross in Group 1. Dunamine and De Hamlet in the opening weekend, Tome and Carrickmacross. And then Group 2, it's Killarney, who came down from senior last year. By the way, Dunamine come down from senior obviously last year as well. Drumhowen and Tome come up from the junior ranks. But it is Killarney, Tyholland, Castleblaney, Monaghan Harps, and Clonus. The opening weekend has Killarney against Castleblaney and Tyholland against Clonus. Who's your pick? Who's coming out of intermediate? Who's coming out of the minefield?
Well, Carrickmacross will be very happy with how they beat Killarney in the league semi-final. Almost like a grudge match. You know, the day Killarney beat Carrick, I talk about this game a lot. Killarney beat Carrick in Inniskeen in the intermediate final, and Carrick were favourites that day. But it was the manner in how Carrick lost the game. And it's taken Carrick certainly almost 2 years to get over that defeat. And I think they're ready now to, you know, put this to bed and say, listen, we're ready to go up. They were favourites last year. You know, they didn't perform. True took them out in the semi-final. I think Carrick are in a great position. I know Stephen O'Hannon's carrying a shoulder injury, but I think Andrew Callan's got them, you know, in a good place. But Killarney are there. Killarney are a tough team. Castleblaney going well. Monaghan Harps going very, very well. And, you know, Harps now will have to, you know, realise that potential. We've all saw good Monaghan Harps teams and they never just get the job done. So that's the challenge for the Monaghan Harps boys. Drumhowen, you know, coming up from junior, it's always tough. And Tome are having a tough time as well. So in that sense, Tyholland, you know, tight for numbers, Tyholland at the minute. That's been a struggle for them. Good footballing team, but, you know, tight for numbers. But they can always put it up and they can always be dangerous. But you'd have to say, you know, the 4 teams that are putting their hands up are Carrickmacross, Monaghan Harps, Killarney, Castleblaney, and Duhamlet are a tough outfit too. But I just think Carrickmacross, you'd have to say, there's a bit of soul searching going on around that club. And they're going to have to look into themselves and go, it's now or never, really, because, you know, there's only so many times you can be favourites and talk about winning. If they don't do it this year, it'll be a big question mark, and they have questions to answer, and they know that, and I think they're ready to answer those questions. So that's why I'm gonna put my head in the line and say Carrick Cross. They're favourites anyway, so I'm not saying anything dramatic there, but I do think on a deeper level they're bringing a bit of physicality, a bit of bite, and I think they have to, because they've been bitten in the past and beaten in the past, and this is their chance now to redeem themselves, and I think they're up for the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it's a minefield. Intermediate football in County Monaghan is always a
Best
minefield.
championship.
Oh, yeah, by far, because as I've always said, you've the two senior coming down, you've the two best junior going up, and you've those that are established as intermediate in the middle. So it always is. The junior then as well. And again, it's the same format. We have our two groups. So we have Emmy Vale, Curran, Scots House, Shawns and Killeave. And Emmy Vale, of course, coming down from intermediate ranks last year. And on the other side then, it's Black Hill, who were relegated down last year. Orem, Airog, Rocurry and Ahabog. Ahabog, the junior league finalists last year, just losing out on getting up. Airog, of course, the county finalists, losing out to Drumhowen last year as well. So there's lots of, I suppose, quality there as well. The opening weekend is Curran taking on Shawns, good local one there. Scottstown, that's their junior team, taking on Killeave. And then it's Orem against Rocurry, Airog against Ahabog. So a couple of nice little derbies to look forward to there. But listen, there's one team, and again, we're not going above the pulpit by claiming this. There's one team there you expect to come out of junior.
Yeah, Emmy Vale are sticking out like a sore thumb there, but they are where they are for whatever reason, and you don't find yourselves here by accident. So no more than I said about Carrick Cross, wanting to go back up senior and having to look at themselves, and Emmy Vale will have to do a bit of that as well, because it's okay, fellas like us saying, oh yeah, Emmy Vale are going to win, but you have to go out and win. You have to go out and perform. Everyone else is trying to win as well. Everyone else is training. Every one of those teams you mentioned there, Sean, are putting in a massive effort. And they're looking to fire a shot at Emmy Vale, who are there. They're the target on their back. They're the ones that everyone's saying are going to win. And that's a dangerous place. I still think with Emmy Vale's quality and, Ryan McInnesby and co, they have brilliant players. I think they will get out of the junior. But they're going to be in with a few scares along the way, because nobody down there is going to take that for granted that Emmy Vale they're going to have to earn it. But they do appear to be the quality team. There is no doubt about that.
They certainly are. So we're going Emmy Vale, Carrick Cross and Scottstown, 3 county champions. The next couple of weeks and months is going to tell its story. We could all be coming back on this episode to see what was said, Fergal. But I know you're going to be on duty. You're looking forward to the opening weekend. Like any player getting ready for the championship, from your own perspective, you're getting ready.
I'm getting ready and I'm looking forward to it. I had a break there from the county scene there for a few weeks and got to watch a few games and talk to people. I love, you get insights from different people, and I am really looking forward. And I tell you, the way the format is, Sean, I know I'll be hopping from one place to the other. I love that. You hop in and you talk, and then you go to the next club and you get great welcomes in all the club. It's just a privilege going around to the clubs in Monaghan and meeting all the great people involved in that. You'd be nothing but proud and honoured to be able to call on these games, because the effort that goes into the club scene, you'd have to tip your hat to these people. The commitment behind the scenes and on the pitch, it's just incredible. I just love going to these matches, and you'd be just immensely proud of the GAA really, and what it gives people, that focal point where we're going to shout our own team on, and people putting themselves in the line and putting themselves out there and being told they're doing everything wrong and being told they're doing everything right by every expert leaning over the fence. But it's brilliant. And it's an open book at the minute. I mean, we said Scottstown there. Who knows? This story is yet to be written, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the story will be starting this weekend. Fergal will be on duty. You can catch it all, don't forget, on Saturday and Sunday. Sport, of course, on Northern Sound. And Fergal will be joining us over the course, indeed, of the championship as well, here on the Monaghan Way, to keep us up to date in that regard.